Our next guest is Joanna Maciag. She's a cheerful, talkative person and truly passionate about Agile. 20 years in Motorola, dedicated the last 3 to supporting teams with metrics and tools and boosting Jira usage to the maximum. And metrics and tools play a very important role in Agile transformation. Today, Joasia will tell you more about tools in scaled Agile.
Thank you. So this talk is about tools in scaled and not only scaled Agile. So my name is Asia, Joanna, doesn't matter, it's the same. I'm in Motorola for a long time, and I'm leading now team which supports all engineering tools. Motorola went through a really huge transformation during last years. You may heard it on the other talks by Michał. We implemented Agile a long time ago on the team level. Later on, we implemented SAFe, and recently, really 2 years ago, we almost went out of the SAFe. We end up with some of other form of scaled Agile, and that's what we are trying to implement now. So if you are here to get just simple recipe for me, which tool is the best on the market, or which tool is the best for you or for some kind of business, that talk is not for you, unfortunately. You can find on the market a huge amount of the comparisons, talks, the measurements, both Google-driven and more professionals, comparing tools, comparing their different kind of features. But really, what I will talk and share with you is our experience, how we implemented SAFe, how we went out of SAFe, what drives this change. I will show you our lessons learned, why we changed it, and based on the risk examples. And I will provide you some criteria you really don't find on any other comparison on the Google. So let's start. Let's imagine you have a task from your boss to find the perfect tool for your organization. What you are starting usually from? You collect some requirements. Of course, you want to satisfy your stakeholders, implement their requirements. You document the existing processes, because of course you need to shift them to the new tool. You desire some the architecture of the desired state, let's say, because if you would like to implement SAFe or less or any form of Scrum of Scrums, this is what you need to start thinking of. And you look if there are any tools on the market meeting your standards, meeting your general requirements of the high availability, cloud native, or cloud agnostic, doesn't matter what kind of features you would like to, are more important for you. So you find, this is what we did a few times, and that's perfectly okay. But this is there is a important point here, that at the moment you find few tools, you would like to do some proof of concept based on this, I would be scared if you really stop at that point, at that level. Because it is just a beginning of your journey. Let's ask ourselves once again, what we are choosing this tool for. We are choosing the tool to implement Agile. Whatever, any form of Agile, any form of scale Agile, it's still Agile. And the first paradigm of Agile is the people and interactions above processes and tools. So what we are talking about tools at all? Because we all know that tools are important because they make your life, the daily life easy. But really, if you find your perfect tool, you should ask yourself, is your tool Agile-like? Why? Because process you are implementing this tool into is promoting sustainable change. This means that processes you will implement in this tool will change. What more does it mean? So you need to ask yourself question, is your tool, how quickly your tool responds to change? How quickly you will be able to respond on the change. For sure, in a year or the 2 years or maybe 5 years, requirements of your stakeholders will change. Your processes need to evaluate how open or extendable this tool is. Because you will find other processes which not fit perfectly to your tool and you need probably integrate with them. How flexible this tool is, because your organization different part of your organization might have different processes and you need to accommodate. How this tool promotes cooperation and collaboration. This paradigm of the Agile. Is it open? Everybody can see everything? Of course, you might hide some things for a reason. How user-friendly this tool is, and I'm not talking here of measuring UI, I'm talking about how maybe known well is it in the industry. Does it mean if, for example, is it available for free for some amount of people, so people are familiar with them and you don't need to waste the time to produce tons of documentation, to train them all. And how much permissions, how many of them you can delegate, you push down because you don't want to be bottleneck for any Agile processes. In 2018, we start some tools transformation. At that point, we were in version 1, what Michał Rosołowski mentioned at the first talk. We struggle with all those dependencies between our value streams, and that was not manageable in version 1, because version 1 was strictly focused. The value streams were separated silos, and to measure to find dependencies between them in a tool, it was nightmare. Later on, we migrated some part of it to Agile Craft. It is a perfect tool for business. It measures business value of any kind. It measures money spent. It does really perfectly prioritization. But when it comes to daily usage of engineering, it was as well nightmare. So for that, we started for the team level. We started introducing the Jira, and at some point of time, it was decided that we migrate everything to Jira. We got 2 months for it, and it was really great fun because we migrated over 40,000 records out of the version 1. We migrated amount the same number of records from the Agile Craft. We kept continuous synchronization of the one more tool, which I didn't put on the picture, which is where we have defects. It was IBM ClearQuest. And finally, we did it. But how we did it? Well, we did it in Agile way. So first, we read off most of requirements. You cannot believe me, how many requirements we received. We received many spreadsheets with many tabs and columns of the requirements, and most of them are not implemented even till now. We were working on the daily basis with our customers, understanding their business needs and implement according to the priority. So we agreed at some MVP, and it was very clear, and everybody here can understand it. It was next PI needs to happen in Jira. This is why we did all this massive import of data. We delivered incrementally. It was not possible to implement everything at one shot, and we were working very closely, as I said, with customers, and we were even in the middle of them mediating their needs. Change was welcome, and even now is all the time, because requirements may be brought by customers anytime, and this is essential of Agile. So Jira is not perfect in everything, was not, and is not still. It doesn't implement like a purely safe. For example, epics in safe is on the 3rd level, but in Jira you have just issue name epic. You cannot change it, so we implemented like a safe epics, X epics, and other epics to recognize. On the second hand, that was a very flexible tool from the beginning. So we were able to change it quickly and to implement different way of the issue, different types of the issue. As I mentioned, we work as a leader mediator to try to come up the common process as much as possible. But on the other hand, it was quite flexible for every business. Jira doesn't support hierarchy of the project, so we just implement it based on the just properties and some visualization of these properties. Jira doesn't support well the visualization of the issue hierarchy dependencies, so we implemented it. Jira Portfolio right now does it quite good, but still, this is very valuable by our customers' view of the daily dependency and the hierarchy of the work. So, what we achieved? Instead of tool, which forces us to work and organize people in a certain way, which very often, tools did, we developed just a tool which is very flexible and might be adjusted to the changeable business rules. And without this, the transformation we did in Motorola didn't happen. Well, it wouldn't be possible to happen, because we did just smoothly transformation from the safe and out of safe, because the tool was easy and flexible. And what more? We have one source of truth. That tool is never finished until now, and probably in the next few years will not be. Flexible, as I said, and because of this one source of truth, we have so huge amount of data, we can easily present to different stakeholders, from the business level to the Scrum level team. And this tool is really now home for everybody. We have IT department, we have finance department, we have supply chain, product orderability, release management. a lot of smaller and bigger teams with different processes. Some using full safe still or will use, some using the different form of scalable agile, some using pure lean or the Kanban. And that's all is possible. Now I will switch a little bit to our safe and new scalable approach. Michał mentioned that we did this transformation, and he provided some reason what we implemented good in safe and what was bad and opposite. That part is a little bit contemporary with his. One of the topic he mentioned is that our plannings were huge. You can imagine we have 1,000 engineers here in Krakow. Having one planning for them, it was a huge event. Having them for a week, sitting in the more or less one place and planning together, it was a huge event and costly event. And it ended up, of course, on the Monday that we need to change just a few days after. So instead of doing this kind of huge events, PI plannings, we switch more to prioritization of the backlog. And it is not, I'm not talking about stories backlog, I'm talking about the high level of hierarchy backlog. And some teams are doing it on the weekly basis, some on the daily basis, some on the still 3 months, for example, basis. Instead of structuring our value streams according to the organization structure, we start with which was, as Michał mentioned, very complicated, and we found out we have a huge number of dependencies. We started measuring those dependencies and showing them, which leads to some restructurization of teams. Physically, teams were somewhere splitted, somewhere joined. Definition and management of the value stream changed. Instead of spending time on costing before, we realized from pure data that we don't need it anymore. So we reduced the cost of the upfront measuring and asking developers to divide things to smaller and smaller, to story plan them. Instead of that, we just grooming of the t-shirt size, and then we don't even look at the story points of the particular issues, because we find out that organization is mature enough to so we can base just only issue counting. Instead of having the strict PI cycles, like 3 months we started measuring, and we started putting attention to speed up our cycle time. So we didn't fix our period of the delivery. We just were and are still working on delivering faster and faster. Sorry, that happens. We change completely our defect measuring. I will show you later on. So instead of the planning, as I said, this is the real example of our prioritization list. We have it on the highest portfolio level we can, and that's done almost every week by some businesses. Instead of strict value stream definitions, this is what we started really measure. There are real data when we measure how many initiatives, our kind of big chunks of work, are need some work from our value streams. And we very soon find out that there are value streams which are so common that they become bottleneck for others. And there are some which are quite good defined and separated. So that leads really the top level management to do changes in organization. We did it, that dependency measurement, not only on the organization levels, but as well on the each initiative. So we know if maybe we slow down some initiatives because they are dependent on the other value streams. Instead of costing, you all probably are familiar with the SWOGs and other form of pre-costing. We're rid of all of them. What we just need is more or less rough size of our initiatives. So we estimate from the front end business, it's Fibonacci number, just. We take the R&D, engineering estimates in the staff months, and we are taking the time. So that just leads us to the t-shirt size, which we know more or less if we go how big or small the chunk is. Is it for a 1 month or 1 year? And now question to those on the last line. Find 5 differences. Really? No, I'm kidding. Really, there is the same initiative. The top one is measured in the story points. The bottom one is measured in the number of stories. They are more or less the same. Even this one is more accurate because you see more real statuses. Here, the initiative almost ends. Here, we know that it's still ongoing. So, but that will not be possible by just working and grabbing rough data of every team daily work. So we just found out that our Agile methodology on the team level is mature enough that it doesn't matter. People doing planning are naturally more tend to create smaller stories, so they fit in sprints, which leads that those smaller stories are more or less equal to one story point or whatever. It doesn't even matter how much by what we multiply it. We started measuring the cycle time. As I mentioned, we would like to deliver faster. And we find out from the pure data that, okay, we are quite good on the story level. Those are burn-ups on the same initiative. Not the same as previous, but the same. So we are quite good. We are, let's say, probably here on 80%, but here still we have one epic, closed only. So we find out that, okay, we are quite good in delivering on the lower level, but it doesn't reflect on the higher level of hierarchy, maybe because there is some bottleneck on the testing, maybe we just do not look at it. So that leads to some behavior changes. We measure the cycle time on all the levels, story levels, epics level, and finally initiative level. That pushes, because you know that usually it's metrics-driven development. Whatever management is measuring, the lower level, and we are all following. So that pushes us and the whole our organization to deliver faster, to put attention to deliver faster, and as well to chunk our work in a certain way that could be delivered faster. So instead of the same initiative, just easily divide by the teams. So this team will do that, this team will do that. We started thinking of how we can deliver functional things. So We deliver minimum valuable products, even if across all teams, then next, and then next, and then next. That allows us to deliver here quicker. And finally, defects. I said that we change completely our way of measuring defects. Michał as well mentioned about that we introduced zero defects policy. What does it mean? Instead of predicting defects, that's very common across a whole industry, that you have those prediction charts when you measure how many defects you have now, and assuming at the end of development you are on the right curve to end up with the right quality. Instead of that, we concentrate more on the current quality of our product. And we developed those 4 charts we are showing every sprint, really every day. This one we call the defect management efficiency. It shows you how many defects income in the given week, how many are resolved, and how efficient we are with the backlog. So we measure the effectiveness of the management together with development, resolving of defects. Why I'm mentioning management? Because not necessarily all those defects need to be resolved. They need to be just, decision need to be made. Sometimes that's enough to cancel them because there is no reason to resolve them. That power was gave to product owners. Previously, we got consortium, we consulting from different quality, seats, teams, etc. Now, if product owners need this information, he or she can ask, but he is responsible to take decision. This chart shows us just a backlog of the resolved and not closed, not resolved and not closed defects. We are measuring sometimes which were of them, how many of them were third party, how many are in source. Those 2 are measuring the age. It doesn't mean cycle time. It means age. It means our backlog, how old is it? Because that matrix takes care about the current incomes and current outcomes. Still, you can be you can resolve easy defects and be good on this matrix, but your hard defects, the old one or very hard one, will stay unresolved. So by this 4 gives us complementary view of the whole defect management. I didn't, I said I will not show you which tools are the best, but I can show you which tools we are managing and we have in Motorola Solutions. So, but that's what we are very flexible about. If there will be maybe some better tools in the 5 years or 10 years, we should go there. So now question and answers. So if you have any. Yeah.
Shows t-shirt estimation.
Yes.
And I wanted to ask you, how does it fit into Jira, t-shirt estimation?
For Jira, we just introduced the one choice list, which contains all those sizes and some explanation above as a reference, and that's all. It's just a matter of how people use it and what kind of metrics we produce out of it to show, and who is looking at those metrics. So because that was decision of the management, they ask us for those metrics and they are looking at those metrics, that leads that everybody needs to use it. So yeah, that's from Jira, technically very simple.
estimation or story point
We do story point estimation on the Scrum teams if they want. They don't need, but nobody measure it on the highest level. On the ops review, for example, which we do every 3 months, nobody shows this kind of metrics, but people are allowed to do that anyway.
I'm not sure if I understood correctly that without Jira there would be no your success without this tool?
I would say no. I would say no. It depends. If you find any other tool on the market which easily you can adjust to your needs, go ahead. And you have plenty of option to doing for small businesses like a SaaS option of Jira or any other tool. I'm not telling that wouldn't be success. We didn't succeed. Probably it will be much more harder. Because always changing a tool is changing of the processes, changing migration of the data. Jira allows us to change our process without changing a data. We just maybe migrated from the one ID to second ID, keeping the old ID. That's all. What we did. A decision about changes of the value stream, removing train. We just removed those train level issues down or up. That was all. And I'm not telling that Jira is the best tool in the world. It's just I'm showing you that any tool you want, you need to think if really this tool may change enough, for example, in a half of a year, if you would like to adjust your processes. Right.
How are you working with metrics? Because when the metric is wrong, it's natural to make not hold true in Jira to make the metric right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a thing of the big honesty. Mm-hmm. So how are you working with metrics?
So that's a very good question, because metrics, as I mentioned, there is tendency to metrics-driven development. So what's important here is we are using EasyBI to produce metrics because Jira is not good at it, especially on the scale. So first, we are looking from the raw data what we see. So we do not implement metrics and announce them to everybody. We are trying to do kind of data analytics. So we are grabbing data because they are in Jira, and we meet the goal of management. So if we are starting showing that, okay, you would like to deliver faster, but really we do not do that, but we are good, for example, on story levels. That's how we are cooperating very closely with Agile teams, with product management teams, previously with value stream engineers to show them first data, so they can explain why, maybe what, maybe different metrics should help. So we are working very closely with businesses to understand those metrics first, and then they are forced and showed. Those, for example, defect metrics, you can see on our TVs in every kitchen. Show the data. Those previous one are part of value stream reports every 3 months. So they are observed because they need to.
I have a quick question regarding the set of tooling that you've been using. There's a lot of different vendors in that whole set. Would you actually do something a little bit differently? Go with a single vendor? Would that be helpful? Or just continue having multiple vendors to manage all that data?
I think it would be easier. But we didn't found the one vendor tool which supports everything. And even if, that's still a question of how flexible this vendor is, right? And how flexible this tool set is and open for the existing or other tools you have in a company, like a finance, you need to cooperate with finance, etc. If it's difficult to develop or do integration, that might be stopper, right? That's all. Yeah, go ahead.
Like maybe I have a small comment. Like I'm from Motorola, and basically I'm a client of the team that Asia provides. And I remember the transformation to Jira, and basically it was from Team Foundation server that had like a lot of functionalities, but mostly because not many people like actually knew what it could do. It was not fully like utilized, and when it was overly complicated by specific process for the specific departments. And the transformation to Jira was also like, because you also need to tell your clients what they can do with it. And this is very good stuff that like every change, this gradual implementation was communicated what is new, what you can use. Like, so it was like not only like giving people like in the background the functionalities, but also like presenting them, you can actually do this in this tool. Like now we have implemented that, and like workshops and education, and this is also important because otherwise everything can be there, but people might not find it and they will be unhappy.
Thank you. And this is really from the one of the the first slide when I mentioned that this team is working really agile, because it's really needs it open for change, respond to change, and working very closely with customers, presenting them and being still advisor what they can and how they can utilize tool for their needs. And the last statement then. Change is always welcome in Agile. So just be prepared. Whatever tool you choose, it doesn't need to be Jira, but ensure that this criteria your tool can meet, because it will happen. And thank you.
Thank you very much.